The movie, based on a true story, begins on May 19, 1984, when Travis Dunn, along with other participants, auditions for the show Press Your Luck. Although he gives the organizers a commemorative plate, Travis doesn't pass the selection due to his unkempt appearance and his use of a fake name. But the producer, Bill, is impressed by his spontaneity. After catching up with the contestant in the parking lot, where he is unsuccessfully trying to start his ice cream truck, Bill tells the man to clean himself up and come to the shoot the next morning. He also learns that his real name is Michael Larson. Michael goes to a thrift store to get a jacket. After tearing off the buttons, he first haggles for a discount and then sews them back on to look like $1,000,000, which he expects to win. In the morning, the man sets off to conquer the TV screens in his sputtering truck. At the studio, a woman named Seville gives the participants a tour of the television town, which includes sets with various interiors for filming. When they get to the Press Your Luck pavilion, Michael wanders off to admire the backstage area, but Seville brings him back. While waiting for his turn, the man watches the show's broadcast with other contestants. Then, Michael, as part of a trio of players including Ed and Jenny, is introduced to the host, Peter. When the players take their places, the show's recording begins. It starts with applause from the audience in the studio. Following a lit-up sign, the host introduces the contestants, telling who they are and where they are from. The audience reacts to the lines according to the director's cues on a teleprompter. The rules of the quiz are as follows. Peter asks questions, and whoever presses the button fastest provides the answer. Other players can either agree or give their own version. A correct answer earns the right to 3 spins on the game board. Agreeing with a correct answer earns 1 spin. An incorrect answer earns nothing. The first question is, at what age, according to research, do wrinkles or crow's feet appear around the eyes? A woman answers 40 years old. The others agree, and this is the correct answer. The second question, in what form is President Roosevelt in everyone's pocket? Michael rushes to answer and makes a mistake, saying a $50 bill instead of a dime, 10 cents. To the question about gestures, Ed answers with a nod. The others nod in solidarity. On the fourth question about who on a wedding day makes sure the priest gets paid, Michael answers first, and correctly, the best man. As a result, he has earned 5 spins from the 4 questions. Before the second phase of the show, a break is announced, during which Michael uses a hand gripper to warm up his hands. After the break, the contestants are turned towards a huge screen, the edges of which are framed with squares containing prizes. A light signal illuminates them one by one. By pressing the button at the right moment, players receive whatever is in the lit-up square at that instant. Participants can also pass their turn to take a break, hoping an opponent will hit a square that wipes out their score. Michael gets the first spin. He stares intently at the screen, where the lights flash in what seems to be a random, chaotic algorithm. When the man presses the button, he wins a prize of $2,000. Then Michael hits another $1,500 plus 1 free spin. However, his third attempt is unsuccessful. All his points are wiped out. In the heat of the moment, Michael curses, causing a problem for the production crew, who have to bleep out the profanity for the show's family-friendly rating. A staff member has to remind the contestants that such language is unacceptable on a daytime program. Michael apologizes, and the turn passes to Ed. After his successful spin, another break begins. The players are allowed to use the restroom, but Michael asks Seville for permission to make a phone call, which is against the show's rules. He claims it's his daughter's birthday, and he must wish her a happy birthday. Although the woman allows him to make the call, no one answers on the other end. After the pause, the second round begins. Michael, as the player with the fewest points, starts spinning first. He immediately manages to win $4,000, and then another $5,000 plus a free spin. Continuing to press the button, the player earns several thousand more with his spins. The production crew is pleased, as is the producer, Bill, who saw a potential hero in the scruffy loser, someone capable of boosting ratings. Tirelessly picking the right moment, Michael increases his winnings again and again. The host suggests he stop so that his winnings don't accidentally get wiped out by an unlucky move, but the player is adamant. Press, press, and press again. Even when he reaches $28,000, which is a record-breaking win, Michael doesn't think about stopping. Suspecting something is wrong, Bill orders a commercial break and asks to see the host. While a joyful Michael invites the makeup artist and his fellow contestants to dinner to celebrate his upcoming victory, the producer tells Peter that something is not right with the contestant. Bill wants to stop the game, but there are no rules that allow him to do so. Therefore, he advises the host to scare the player with statistical probability. Returning to the game, Peter tells Michael that according to probability theory, one of the next 6 presses will make him bankrupt. However, he decides to continue. He enjoys fattening up his winnings to the size of a small country's budget. Bill then asks the casting director, Chuck, who was initially against Michael's candidacy, to find out who this guy is. While the show continues, Chuck calls the phone number Michael provided on his application. The number leads to the casting office of his own show. Remembering that Michael drives an ice cream truck, Chuck inspects the vehicle in the parking lot, looking for a way to get inside. A security guard with a crowbar helps him, as the guard disliked the van driver so much he couldn't even eat. Michael increases his pot to $42,601. The studio audience is ecstatic, unlike the organizers, who realize they are on the hook for a large sum of money. But without proof of cheating or rule violations by the player, they cannot simply stop the show. Bill has to call an early break to figure out what to do next. Inside the van, Chuck finds a restraining order against Michael from someone named Lyle. He calls Lyle under the pretext of extending the order. The director learns that Michael was involved in building pyramids, not the respectable Egyptian kind, but financial ones. The fact that he was a con man raises suspicion. Among the items Chuck illegally takes are a whole bag of VHS tapes. All of them contain episodes of Press Your Luck, recorded over home videos of his family. Beginning to understand the reason for Michael's success, Chuck goes to the studio, where he observes the incredibly lucky player. His eyes are moving intently, following the movement of the light around the squares. Chuck goes to the control booth, where he asks the operator to rewind the last few spins and show a close-up of Michael's face. He draws attention to his eyes. The player is tracking the lighting algorithm and pressing the button at the exact right moment.
Stop! Stop at 1250. Stop! Stop at 1250. Stop!
It turns out that the game uses only 5 movement patterns. Learning them, as it happened, was not so difficult, especially with dozens of tapes of the show. But this approach can hardly be called cheating. During the break, Seville hands out branded t-shirts to the other contestants, apologizing that they won't get to play because of the first trio. Taking advantage of her absence, Michael calls his wife to wish his daughter a happy birthday, despite phone calls being forbidden during the show's filming. He is caught by an entertainer in a mascot costume. The host, Peter, calls the director's booth to remind the organizers about the home spin, a special condition that allows the game to end if it runs longer than the allotted time. When this happens, a random person also receives the last prize along with the player who was lucky enough to reach the home spin. The lucky person is named on a card, but when Michael opens it, he sees the name Lyle Roberts, one of his defrauded investors. Realizing that the organizers know about his past, Michael gets nervous. Nevertheless, he manages to win a vacation at a 5-star hotel. After this, he has one last spin, but a spotlight shines directly into his eyes, blinding him and making it difficult to see the screen. A break is called to deal with the lighting. During the break, Michael complains to Ed that the organizers are mocking him by choosing Lyle as a prize winner. Kaufman is brought to the director's booth. He is unhappy about the suddenly discovered flaw in the system with its 5 algorithms, which threatens to cost the television company $70,000, the amount Michael has already won. When asked who let him on the show, Bill shamefully lies that Chuck is responsible for casting. At that moment, Chuck himself has cornered Michael, who had stepped out to stretch. He makes it clear that he knows about his method and, threatening him with arrest for fraud, asks who he was calling. A flustered Michael flees the studio to his van, but the cunning Chuck has already returned the items. From the sound of the alarm and a broken lock hasp, Michael realizes his van has been broken into. Michael then approaches a nearby police officer, but when he learns that several patrols have been called to the studio, he gets scared, thinking they are there for him. The man walks away, pretending to look for his car in the parking lot. But when he is finally noticed, he hides in a pavilion where another show is being filmed. The host, mistaking Michael for a guest, invites him to the table. During their conversation, the guest confesses that he came to Hollywood not for money or fame. He simply wants to have breakfast with his family, but due to a difficult relationship with his wife, the only way he can be in the same room with them is if the television is tuned to the channel where Michael is being shown at that moment. The conversation is interrupted by the appearance of Seville. She has come to bring Michael back to his pavilion. The audience in the hall greets him with a thunderous ovation, which does not go unnoticed by the television executives. They even turn off the applause sign. Chuck enters the booth to find out that Bill has blamed him for the financial disaster. However, an operator interrupts their argument, pointing out that for the common people, Michael has become almost a national hero thanks to what they perceive as pure luck, and the network can use this for PR. The management decides to continue the show, allowing him to keep spinning. An offended Chuck notices the phone that Michael first used to make a call. He redials the last number. On the line is Patricia, Michael's wife, whose husband's winnings have just surpassed $100,000 to universal jubilation. The host puts the call on speakerphone, which throws the player off his game. The conversation ends on a sour note. His wife scolds Michael for his gambling addiction, asks him to sign the divorce papers, and hangs up. Upset, Michael removes his microphone and leaves the studio. Peter goes to the control booth, where he blames Bill for ruining the show, but Bill insists he didn't give the order to contact Patricia. To fix the situation, the producer goes to Michael. He has locked himself in a room, crying about his miserable fate as a loser, while Seville tries to convince him to come out. The producer tells Michael he has become a star, a national hero, the luckiest man in America, and it would be foolish to throw this chance away now by refusing to finish the game because of a tantrum. Michael agrees, but on one condition. First, he must be allowed to call his wife, though he hesitates to dial her number. When the contestants return to the studio, Peter reminds them that Michael has one more spin left. Suddenly, the man decides to pass his turn to Ed, who has been supporting him the whole time. The audience greets this decision with applause, while Bill, whose plan to make Michael a star has failed, smashes the commemorative plate in a fit of rage. The organizers decide to never show the recording of this episode again after its mandatory airing, in order to bury the story in the depths of oblivion. By this point, Michael's winnings totaled $109,250. In the finale, Ginny passes her last turn to him. Michael looks at the screen, closes his eyes, and yells, "Stop!" as he presses the button. 2 weeks later, when the show is broadcast, Michael's wife and daughter are watching it on TV. Their viewing is interrupted by Lyle. He wants to take the girl to school. After seeing her partner and daughter off, Patricia returns to the screen. She watches her ex-husband methodically get rich, happy that he has finally found his calling. On his last spin, Michael won, bringing his final score to $110,237. When the host asks what he will do with such a pile of cash, Michael replies that he doesn't know. The film ends with archival footage of the real TV show and the luckiest man in America.